Hey everybody, it's Martian Monkey here, and this is going to be my Aquaman movie review. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this movie, but before we do, don't forget to go in the description below and follow my Twitter. I post updates on things that I'm going to be doing, like videos. I also just tweet out random things that I'm thinking about, or things that I want to see in the future for comic book movies, or just random tweets that are really fun. I also have some other links down there for Instagram, my Twitch, all those things. You can get those in the description. But back to the review. Aquaman movie review. We have been waiting years for this movie. I remember back in 2016, I was making videos about people who were being casted, news about what James Wan was thinking about doing, and now here we are at the end of 2018 watching this movie. Let me tell y'all, this movie is so freaking good. Now, that doesn't mean there's not any problems. There are some problems in this movie, in my opinion, which I think hopefully will get fixed. But I do think that the DCEU is back on the right track, guys. I really do believe that. And to be honest, so do records and so do people, because Aquaman pre-sale tickets sold out faster than Infinity War. So I think people are coming around to the DCEU. The critics aren't. This movie has a 64% on Rotten Tomatoes. It started out with like a 72, right? But I think that the people are really coming around to it because a lot of people are loving this movie. All right, so let's get to the review. So what do I think about Aquaman? Well, I think it's very fun and adventurous, and there's a lot to discover when it comes to the world of Atlantis and Aquaman's people that, you know, he lives with and interacts with, and just everything like that. It's just so much fun to watch. And that's the first thing. This movie is really fun, and it's just a ride. It's a roller coaster ride. It is very much an 80s or 90s adventure film that James Wan has kind of weaved into the story of Aquaman and his origin. Really isn't an origin movie, but it kind of is at the same time, because even though he's already has his powers and everything like that, we've already seen him in Justice League, he really becomes Aquaman here, which I really like quite a bit, and it's really cool. The only big thing that I think that James Wan should have, I guess, thought through more is that this movie has so much world building that it kind of becomes too much world building. There's so many things that have to be talked about in terms of, you know, how Atlantis is a place, how no one has discovered it, how the public thinks about it, you know, just the rituals that they've had for, you know, however long Atlantis has been a kingdom. All right, how Atlantis became a kingdom, right? It's just so much. How King Atlan, you know, from the trailers weaves into this. It's just so much world building, and it's kind of too much at some points. And I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh, get on with it, because I really want to see the actual story, you know, unveil, rather than the kind of like the build up to the story of how he, you know, defeats Orm, right? But let's talk about Jason Momoa. Oh my god, Jason Momoa is so fantastic in this movie. Y'all, I remember in Justice League where he was like okay, right? I wasn't a huge fan of his Aquaman, but man, did they improve Aquaman in this movie. And I think that that's because James Wan not only, you know, has respect for comics in general when he came to this project. I feel like he did have respect for it. But at the same time, he doesn't, you know, try to change Jason Momoa or change Amber Heard. And we'll talk about her in a second. But James Wan kind of tailors the characters to them. And I think that that plus Jason Momoa already as Aquaman really makes for a fun hero that we really haven't seen before. And, you know, it's the whole story where he's reluctant to become that hero and has to go through the hero's journey, but it's kind of refreshing at the same time, because Jason Momoa, as I said, is, you know, tailored to the character due to Aquaman, you know, director James Wan, and I think that he really does a good job of making him Aquaman. It's just so excellent, you know, and it's, again, refreshing to see that happen. Same with Amber Heard. You know, James Wan couldn't cast these people, so he had to kind of deal with what he had. And he does a really good job kind of weaving Mira, again, tailoring her to the character, you know, and I think that that's really fantastic. I love her water manipulation ability. Now, really, all the Zebul characters are supposed to have those, right? But you know, I guess it was too much money to afford that, so I guess it's only Mira who has that ability in the movie. But it's just really utilized well, and it's so much fun to use. You know, it really reminds me of The Incredibles 2 recently, where Brad Bird kind of innovated Elastigirl's abilities, right, to kind of make them more innovative and make them more useful. And it's the same thing here, James Wan, with using the water manipulation. But Amber Heard was so good in this movie. I mean, it was kind of excellent to see her kind of shine and have her moment, because she really hasn't done that well in terms of box office or in terms of acting performance. And neither is Jason Momoa, to be quite honest with you. But they end up making that work. As for some extra characters, I loved all of the young Aquaman actors, sorry. But the only problem is I feel like at times they're just kind of like not as on point with terms of acting skill as they should be, or at least the teenage Aquaman. I was like, I'm sorry, teenage Jason Momoa, but you're just not selling it, right? But as for the other extra characters, Nicole Kidman did a fantastic job. I mean, she's Nicole Kidman. And then you also have Willem Dafoe as Volko. Excellent, but he's really just Willem Dafoe here. He's really not anything too special, but I like seeing him because he's a familiar face. And then, of course, the actor who played Aquaman's dad was also excellent, and I really wanted to see more of him, to be honest, because he was so fun. The father-son bond between them was really excellent, so that was great. So those are some of the extra characters that I enjoyed quite a bit. Now, the only problem with the acting is that at times, again, this is a Jason Momoa and Amber Heard movie, so the acting can get a little, again, off point a little bit, where I'm like, you're not selling those lines. But I think further on to the movie you go, the better it gets. And speaking of better it gets, I don't know if I can say the same about Yala Abdul-Mateen II, who plays Black Manta in this film. I liked him in the beginning, and, spoiler alert coming up, so if you don't want to, hear any spoilers about this, but spoiler alert, I thought that the scene with him in the beginning and his dad, right, Black Manta's father, and how Jason Momoa, or I guess Aquaman, Arthur, left him there to die, I was like, wow. I mean, it just blew me away when I saw it. I was like, are you kidding me? That's how we're going to start off this movie? It was so nice. But I think after that, I really wasn't digging Black Manta as much. I really feel like, yes, we did need the rest of those scenes and him becoming Black Manta to set up for the sequel, but at the same time, it's like, no. All right, so let's talk about King Orm Patrick Wilson. Patrick Wilson is fantastic. Now, I recently saw an article about how he's the DCEU's first really good villain. I don't agree. I think Ares was pretty okay. I don't think he was a terrible villain. But I did like the fact that Patrick Wilson's had more presence in this movie rather than Ares, so that was really excellent as well. But I just loved him. I mean, he was so cynical, maniacal, and I think Patrick Wilson does that very well. And he's actually been in the comic book game before with Watchmen, with Zack Snyder, so he knows how comic book films kind of operate and how they work. It was excellent to see him as the villain here, and he actually does look like he could be Nicole Kidman's son. They actually casted both Patrick Wilson and Nicole Kidman very well here, because I feel like Nicole Kidman could also be Jason Momoa's mother as well. Great villain performance. He just did really well. Now let's talk about James Wan. I'm so proud that the DCEU finally has James Wan and finally has a great director. I was really worried to see how this would turn out. A lot of people were. James Wan had the choice, to do a Flash movie. He had the choice to do, I think originally he also didn't have a choice to do the Batman movie as well. And he also had the choice to do Aquaman. And who did he choose? Aquaman, because he hasn't ever been done before, and it's challenging. Back in the day, we all thought he was going to abandon the Aquaman movie to do a Flash movie because it was too difficult to do the underwater scenes. But he proved everyone wrong, and he showed that the underwater scenes are, when it's James Wan, the underwater scenes are really easy to do, and really innovative and fantastic. I just loved seeing him. His visuals, the visuals in this movie are spectacular. The best I've seen in a comic book movie in a while. When you think of movies recently, you think of maybe Justice League, which had like okay visuals, or Infinity War, which was good, but it wasn't visually new. It wasn't anything we hadn't seen before. But this is so crazy on a whole other level. The third act alone was just so crazy to look at, because there was so much to look at that I had to actually see the movie twice just to get a handle of what the third act actually looked like. There was multiple times where I was just so in awe of the actual visuals. And by the way, another little spoiler tip. So again, don't listen if you don't want to hear any spoilers. But that kiss between Arthur and Mira in the underwater setting was fantastic. It was like the most romantic thing I'd seen in a comic book film in so long. And really, their chemistry, Jason Momoa and Amber Heard's in this movie, is just so great. And I think the respect for female characters here that James Wan, showcases with their, the direction he took with Mira and Arthur was also really great. And just, again, Arthur's respect in general as a character for women, which is weird because, he didn't really have that much for Wonder Woman originally. Maybe because he still had that, tough guy act. But I think here it's just so cool. It's really cool. It's a cool thing. And I just loved seeing that. But I think, again, the visuals are great. The adventure aspects of it are great. I think that maybe the only thing that I would also call out is that the beginning is a little rushed. And again, that over explanation of setting up the world that is Aquaman. But, however, I am going to give a little bit of leeway because Atlantis is a lot to set up. And I think that so is, Atlanteans as characters. But I think I really enjoyed the fact that, whenever we didn't have to do some storytelling, whenever it was just following the story of Aquaman alone, and that finding, King Atlan's Triton, that was when the movie was really great. And, it could actually show off a little bit other than having to world build. Overall, Aquaman is a fun, adventurous movie that redefines visuals in comic book films and also redefines what an adventure film actually is in 2018. But what did you guys think of Aquaman and James's vision for this movie? And would you watch more of his movies in the DCEU after watching this? Don't forget to comment down below, like and favorite this video, and I will see you guys later for some more videos. Bye-bye.